One of the things that we found when the recession hit in 2009 is that our clients they grew at the same rate. And we continued to grow at the same rate, and our clients grew at the same rate during the recession. I go, why the hell would that happen? How could this possibly be? You know, the stock market went to nothing, house prices went to nothing. How come our clients are still doing pretty good? What's going on? If demand dropped from 200 to 100 new patients a month because of the recession, but our practices only had the capacity to process 50, how many are they going to get? The capacities of the practice were governing the rate of growth of the practice. So they would add kind of conservatively year over year the ability to process 60 the next year or 70 the next year. That governed and determined the rate of growth. Does that make sense? It's counterintuitive, but it took us a long, long time to figure that out. It's kind of stingy additions really acted as a governor. That's what caused the rate of growth to be, because we were creating far more demand than our practices were able to process. And again, not to be obnoxious, but we're still creating far more demand than you guys are able to process right now, almost every one of you. So that's the governor. It's a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, everybody does really well, and I just want you to do better. So we were misdiagnosing mechanical limits of capacity as being limits of demand. Demand was there. We were stimulating a lot of demand, but just the practices weren't processing it, and the rate of growth was tied to the amount of capacity they added. So we got to look at things from a different perspective. What if we took a leap of faith and just said, well, what the hell? Let's open up with all sorts of, what if we opened up with 3 doctors, 6 hygienists, seeing 12 patients an hour? What if we did something like that? Wouldn't that be kind of crazy? First month payroll of $400,000, no patients. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Well, we did it, and these guys they did it, got $930,000. I don't think it was collectible production. I think that was gross production. 700, 800 new patients first month. Really, all we spent was, I think, $37,000 on banners and signs and direct mail 1 month. To basically have a practice have a value of $1 million immediately. Immediately. Actually, that one, I think you'll agree that kind of pushed them a little bit. I would have rather have seen maybe 4 doctors and 8 hygienists have an average production of around 200 or so than having 3 guys have an average production of about 300. A little bit more sane, but it's pretty cool. But you got to think about it. This is a retail business. So this is on the way to Tahoe. I live in Tahoe also. So this is on the way to Tahoe. They opened this store up, and these guys had about $500 million worth of investment sitting in this place, in an inventory, real estate, construction. It's crazy, but no sales. But you go into place, it's fully stocked. Staff's fully trained. This is scratch practice thinking. Well, this is also how you expand your existing practice. You got to proactively add the ability to process patients first, add the appointments, and we'll fill them. We'll fill them. Guaranteed, we'll fill them. Store's an hour old. What would happen if they didn't have good staff there or the shelves were empty? No one would go back, right? They wouldn't tell everybody else to go. Fully stocked with what consumers want. So when we open up scratch offices now, and it depends on the stomach lining of the guy who's doing it, but we'll commonly open them up with 1,500, 2,000 hygiene appointments, paid, sitting around, no patients at all. But if I didn't have them sitting around ready to take the patients, I couldn't get the patients in. So it's scary, but it's never not worked. It's scary. You don't want to see that no more. I got books all over the place, that. We update them a lot. Go to www.chrisad.com. Client login is the upper left-hand corner. Username is Chrisad, password's prosperity. The idea was, and I've been writing these things for 30 years, I just don't like you guys to make mistakes that other guys have already made. So every time somebody screws up, we put it in the book and say, don't do that no more. So, and we update those things a lot. And we also have 2 of them now, the most important ones, on audiobooks, because we know some of you guys don't like to read. And I don't want to be rude to say some of you can't read, but maybe, who knows? A lot, just You don't want to watch this stuff. We send you updates as to what's going on a weekly basis. Please read them. If you're not getting them, please let our office know. Well, some of them are pretty damn important, make a big difference. I want to talk about media. I think a lot of people think, oh, you know, John just loves this mailing stuff. Oh, boy, he's behind the times. Oh my gosh, he should try this new fancy internet stuff here or there. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So when I went to graduate school, we were basically taught TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines, right? Because that's all the media there was. A little bit of billboard, a little bit of direct mail. And when I started working with dentists, well, first of all, when I started my company, a typical advertising agency in the world is paid 15% commission on media, right? So if I buy, I used to run Honda, when I first started, I ran Honda motorcycle for California. So they would give me $100,000. I'd pay for the media $85,000, get to pocket $15,000. It's a good deal. It's really, really cool. But it also drives me to use media that maybe isn't best for that particular type of business. So in dentistry, we take a look at it and go, wait a minute. We theorized early on that we got a 30,000 household radius, and then we proved it later on with push pins and stuff like that to see how far they came. Yeah, it was about 30,000 households. Long Island, downtown New York, that 30,000 households might go out to 6 blocks. New Mexico might go out 75 miles in certain areas. But 30,000 households held pretty well. That's the area of dominant influence. And I go, well, how the hell do I reach these guys? And the only way that made sense mathematically was to use outdoor advertising in the form of sight signs, and then direct mail, where I could target these guys to retarget the existing patients. We knew that they were already there and hit them pretty efficiently. It was pretty cheap, and so I continued to do that. So the idea here is to calculate, spend the least amount of money to actively reach the most number of target new and returning patients. And you got to really, really actively reach them. You don't want to have them hunt around for something like a Yellow Pages of the 1970s and 80s. It's got to jump out and reach them and hit them and make it happen. So we classify media into 2 different types, which is active and reaches out and grabs people, intercepts them before they have to go to the Yellow Pages or have to go to the internet. We intercept them. We solve their problems, satisfy their needs, intercept them before they have to dig through some Google search or something like that. And I'll explain this in great detail if you want, because we do the math. So it's by far the best investment you can make in a practice. It's a great sight sign. And there's some banners, which I'm going to show you, that we definitively grow practices by $1 million just by having, of course, they got to have what we market, but in the practices be properly configured, but it's ridiculously cost effective. Sight signs, direct mail, integrated stationary components, brochure holders, proper hygiene reactivation is a great media, appointment cards, billboards in many situations are phenomenal. Sed and I are playing around with vans right now, extremely cost effective. My dear wife has a worldwide art app, and we started playing around with, like on those billboards where they have where they stay up for like 15 seconds or something, and they go 4 times every minute. Start looking at those things for 1 million people a week. You can sometimes get that for $2,500. And so we asked the guy, well, $2,500 a week, that's pretty good. And I go, I knew the answer. So why doesn't everybody do this? Well, they're looking for magic bullets of media. They don't understand the math of reach and frequency. I go, I know you're right, but I bet you I know some largest companies in the world, what they do is, you're right. And I'll show that to you in a couple of minutes. This is the real reach of a sight sign in a marketplace. You get almost 100% of the marketplace. Facebook ads. Now, Facebook, the World Advertising Organization, I was supposed to go to the meeting in South India this week, but I'm here instead. But those guys have been investigating the realities of Facebook reach and Instagram reach, and they believe, and they wrote a report on it, and I can get you the report if you want it. It was an internal report. They believe that Facebook is overstating the reach and frequency, or the reach of their audience by about a 10-fold factor. There's no third party that oversees it, like Nielsen ratings or Audit Bureau of Circulation from the newspapers. Mark just makes up these numbers. And if the numbers aren't high enough, he makes a phone call to St. Petersburg, and there's a place in St. Petersburg where they'll have a bunch of people make a bunch of contacts. And it's not true. It's not true. We run about 500 websites for our clients. We know how many people go on the web. I used to own top of Google for all dental-related search terms in the United States. I know what goes on. The average number of individuals who go on the web looking for dentists is about 400 or 500 per month, right? Most of those people don't use Google searches. They type in names that they already knew. How do we know that? We can see their search terms. Very few use pay-per-click or SEO. They type in dentist, Tulare or whatever. It's very, very few. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to examine that, but I want you to understand the realities of that. The largest company in the world is a tech company. How much do they spend on SEO, pay-per-click? Same thing holds true for the top 1,000 companies in the world. How much do you think they spend? Zero. 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 They build their brand in the marketplace. That's up in Oregon the other day. They spend most of it in billboards. Billboards. How are you going to miss that? Can't miss it. This is London yesterday. Right, Wham, yesterday? He's not here. Everywhere. Everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world. Can't miss it. Actively reaches out, builds their brand image. They spend a lot of money on great websites. I'm not saying don't do that. Got to have a great website, but don't spend a bunch of money trying to reach these guys when you can reach them with far more cost-effective media, and they're going to search through to find you anyway if you've done the right things in the active world. Does it make sense? This is great marketing. It's great stuff. How much money? I went to grad school with the guy that runs McDonald's digital marketing. How much money do they spend on SEO? They do the math. Nothing. Largest companies in the world. Nothing. But your kids can't, your 3-year-old kid, McDonald's! They know McDonald's. Most visits to websites are largely a result of other more active visible marketing referral. Web searches are rarely the cause. Websites are a dormant landing page or pass-through portal. They're a result of other marketing. A lot of it's referral. A lot of it's referral that they go to. They try to find you the great dentist that Bob said was wonderful. I want to find that guy, and I know he's on Elm Street. It'll say Elm Street Dental, right? But they're not looking for dentist San Antonio or something like that. And a lot of people think, well, geez, the big trend, isn't this fantastic? Because, I know Walmart's spending a lot of money on they spend a huge amount of money on, but they don't spend any money on SEO. They spend a lot of money having a great website. And that they have a whole building in South San Francisco that's 10 stories tall. It's right by your office, right, Gabe? It's right next door. That's right by your office. That's Walmart's headquarters for the web, right by your office. Yeah, they're great websites. They work really great, but they use active media to drive people to the website. So I'm not saying to have a bad website. And our websites kick ass, man. They're really, really good. They got portals and all sorts of other stuff, and they do really well, but it's kind of an afterthought of a marketing approach. Remember the Yellow Pages? Oh my God, I got to get top of the Yellow Pages, got to get the biggest ad. Oh, wow, it's so important. Well, think about this. How many people just, what am I going to do today in 1980s? Oh, I think I'll look through the Yellow Pages. No one does that. No one sees your ad. No one sees your ad. Look at them now. This is Marin County. There's one ad now. They finally figured it out. But in the 80s and 70s, the largest companies in the world, guess how much money they spent in Yellow Pages? Nothing. 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 It's just the local merchants that didn't understand how business worked or media worked or advertising worked spent money on that stuff. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a good website. But I'm saying, and it has to be a great website, and we got great websites that were super cheap. But I'm saying to spend a lot of money trying to get to the top, you can spend your money 10 times, 100 times more efficiently, and I'll show you in a second on a lot of other things. Now, when we owned top of Google, this is where I first started figuring stuff out. Because I started experimenting with it early on because I wanted to see what was going on. We took Autodesk engineers. They were friends of mine. They actually ran the deal for me. And we're getting 30,000, 20,000, 30,000 individuals a month coming through because we had about 120, 125 offices. And I got really good data to see what was happening. But there was no correlation between the number of visits and the flow rates into these practices. In other words, statistically, there was no deviation whatsoever. It's as if we hadn't made the investment. There was no difference at all. So I'm going, oh, what the hell's going on? Well, most of them had already pre-governed their rate of growth anyway, and we just added more demand, and it didn't make any difference. So we're not anti-web. We got great websites. We just want you to have a realistically, objectively, mathematically based expectation. I'm telling you, if you put one of our websites together that's got the free cleanings and the hours on it, and we put a portal on it that allows them to directly schedule into your office, holy Lord, there's a lot of people who we believe wouldn't have otherwise made appointments that are going on there. It's like 400, 500 a month now. We add 10 or 20 of these a month, but 400, 500 a month now that are making appointments between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., right? So we don't think those guys would have otherwise made appointments. It's really cool. These guys here, this great office here, where you guys get more than anyone, right? But that's because you have all sorts of appointments on Saturdays and Sundays. What do you guys get, like 500 a month or something? It's 600 a month or something? It's crazy. But that's because they got the appointments the marketplace wants. Practices will get less on this portal if they have less appointments the marketplace wants. They're not going to pick and choose and go, oh, just because it's on the web, I'm going to go at 2 o'clock and take off work. And it's not going to happen. But you have control over this. You have a lot of Saturday appointments. 100 Saturday appointments, you'll fill up 100 Saturday appointments. This is a cost effective. We've got 700, 800 of these types of signs up, and they're super efficient. This guy added the capacities, but his new patient flow doubled, and his production just about more than doubled. His hygiene patients tripled. The biggest variable, $375 banner. So every media decision is a comparative decision, right? So I'm going, I run these guys, spending all this money on this on internet. I'm going, well, that's fine and everything, but holy crap, this type of sign can reach 1 million people in a year, 100,000 a month, 80,000 a month, pretty commonly, actively. And they'll use these search terms if they do go to the web, which they don't. Not many do. They do go to the web. They'll use these search terms. A lot of times they'll use the URLs that will be on our mailers or on these site signs. So how else would they would have figured out how to search for you? So this is the type of stuff you got to do. This is a big, super efficient. You want to spend the least amount of money to get the biggest bang for your buck. It's crazy. This is so powerful. Open your eyes to real media opportunities. That's Elon Musk. He boasts that he doesn't spend any money on advertising. Well, that's looking out my back door about 2 months ago. He shot a rocket up, one of the little Tesla rockets. He shot it up at a time when it would go over the Bay Area and would catch the sun's rays as it was getting dark, and it looked like this ridiculous thing. You tell me that's not advertising. What the hell is that? It's Tesla. Can't miss it. It's Tesla. Smart guy, man. Really, really smart guy. There's no shortcuts. I'm telling you, a lot of guys say, well, John, we keep interviewing people. We want to hire somebody who can give you all the implants you want, or all the equilibration cases you want, or all the cosmetic cases you want, we keep looking at these guys, and we keep having them test things on our clients. We want to hire them. We want to buy their companies. We want to copy them. We'll give the stuff to you, or we'll sell it to you, but we're just not finding anything, man. I'm telling you. If there was something better, we'd give it to you. No hot towels, nothing. All right, tracking marketing results. The more sophisticated and integrated your marketing is, less likely it is that you're going to be able to trace it anyway other than to watch your new patient flow increase, your production increase, and your patients and hygiene increase if you add them first. It's all subconsciously targeted. You ask them why, you put a tracking number on it, you're wasting your time. you're wasting your money. Most of our marketing is designed to re-stimulate existing patient base to refer and to come back. They're not going to use tracking number that you put on a brochure or a banner or something like that. You've got to run the calculations of reach. How many people are you actually reaching? What are you saying? And do you have the appointments that you're trying to sell? Are they actually available for the patient to buy when you want to buy it? They're not going to tell you. So our professor at Northwestern says, how can you tell the impact of any one marketing element? It's all interrelated, holistic, and integrated. Remember, one of the key marketing elements is the configuration of your practice. If your practice has a great culture, is offering the things the marketplace wants, has a smile on their face, and you have the appointments that I'm trying to sell, and you don't block them on the phones, in fact, enthusiastically compel them to come in or tell them what a great practice it is, you're going to go through the roof. But is it the marketing? No, it's everything working together as an integrated marketing tool. The practice is the best marketing tool, most efficient marketing tool. Again, as I say, you can stop all outside marketing if your practice is properly configured. Some people in our company have grown to propensity to say you're paying a tax on inefficient management by having a market. Really don't have to. It's a system. Everything's targeted to work as a unit. We're stimulating referral. We're stimulating retention. We're stimulating acceptance. It's trying to get new patients to come in. How do these guys trace their results? How do those 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 guys trace their results? All works together. Everything's got to be exactly the same. You're building a brand image in the mind and the hearts of the marketplace. You got to give them of course, you got to give them what it is that you promised, but man, we don't see, this is like 19 years ago, or 9 years ago was the last time I saw one of these. Well, how many people came in for this, or came in for this? Scott, are you here? Scott Brown? No, tomorrow he'll be here? Okay, well, Scott and I built the practice here from $1 million a year to $1 million a month in about 3-4 years, and he eventually got a call center, and he kept on telling me that his Yellow Page ad was working really, really, really well. And I go, how could that possibly be? Because I did the math. And I go, oh, okay, well, it didn't matter. We put great signs up. We marketed using mail. And we got it. We increased him tenfold in 3 years. And he did a phenomenal job. I'm so proud of him. Anyway, he kept on telling me, yeah, the biggest source of his referral was Yellow Pages. And I go, it still doesn't make any sense. So he kept spending $50,000 a month on Yellow Pages or whatever it was. And anyway, long story short, the computer software he had for his call center was before they would move from the first page to the second page, they had to give a referral source. That's the way the thing was designed. And the box at the top was Yellow Pages. So it's just so the receptionist could get, we knew they weren't asking them, how'd you hear about us over the phone, because we monitored their phone calls. So all they were doing was just pushing Yellow Pages to click to the next page, but had no relationship with what the patient said. Even if it would have mattered, it was just a way by which the receptionist could get to the second page. Totally irrelevant. My dear doctor friend spent God knows how much money on Yellow Pages because he got bad information. But I told him he was the only practice in the world where this was occurring. And he says, well, I got to look at the data. I didn't know how he's collecting the data. He collected it the wrong way. Watch out for self-depleting, low-dollar, non-repetitive procedures like cosmetic, implant, TMJ, sedation, new perio approaches, sleep apnea, stuff like that. I'm not saying don't do them. Just understand that the marketplace for those things is finite, and the more that you do or other people in your town do the same type of procedure, the smaller the marketplace gets. Guys, remember Docs? I started that, about 20 years ago or something with DeMolin and a bunch of other guys, and holy Lord, we couldn't believe how well it was doing. But every day that went on, the marketplace got smaller because the number of people who would respond to sleep dentistry marketing, once they got it done, they didn't need it no more, so smaller. Same thing with cosmetics, same thing with implants. Implants is a real interesting one. The wealthier you are, the less likely you need it. The poorer you are, the more likely you need it. So it's a self-depleting marketplace. In Israel, the government pays for it. Sweden used to pay for it. We used to have a house in Sweden, and I watched what happened there. It was like went to nothing the minute the marketplace stopped paying for it. Over in Tel Aviv, where all these implant guys, all these really cool stuff. Like Dino, if you're here, we were over in Tel Aviv a couple of years ago, seeing our guys over there, and Went to see these phenomenal implant deals, but they don't understand that the market for implant in Israel is really, really good because the government pays for it. Anywhere else doesn't pay for it. Some of the insurance is up in northern Canada and northwestern Australia pay for it, but nowhere else. Small market. We said this 1,000 times. Practices offering Saturday hours are growing 27%. Those who are not offering Saturdays only grew 10%. We've already said this, I'll say it again. If you have somebody over the phone saying, you're going to absolutely love our hygienist Judy, she's wonderful. In fact, if there's anyone else at work or at home who we can schedule that for that appointment, I'd love to. Yeah. This was done about a year or two ago. It's probably even a greater disparity now. I'd like to do one that includes Sundays. Sundays are the most valuable day of the week. Huge. Oh, everybody goes to church around here, John. No, they don't. We counted the services. We looked at the chairs. We looked at the Target parking lot. We looked at the Walmart parking lot. We looked at all. They're not going to church. No, it's the most lucrative day of the week, by far. Cool. So this basically says if you're receptionists, well, you can think about this as your call center. You say, hey, you're going to love it here. This is a spectacular office. And by the way, if there's anyone else at home or at work who needs a great dentist, doesn't have to take off work or school, this is the place for you. Your insurance, whatever it is, works great here. Anyone else in your family we can appoint at this time. I mean, duh. What did I just do? I just tripled the value of any call that comes in. Now, it's not always going to work, and I know you guys are all shy and stuff, but this is mathematically sustainable, right? It's a big deal. Why not? How's it going to hurt? This is just it's the same. Every way we look at the same point. Guys that have primetime hours produce 4,000 per op, where the guys that don't are 17,000 per op. This is a real interesting stat. Now we ran this, I think 2015, 2016. We run it again. It's even more now. Every time we run it, it's the same deal. Guys that have the more convenient hours per month they have, the greater the production. Now, one of our great rep managers yesterday was suggesting that you'll see that the efficiency, the ones that have 0 per 10 convenient hours per month, the doctor per hygiene check's really, really low. Well, that's because they're poor and they're uninsured, right? And you get up towards the end there, you start looking at the per check, it's way high, super, super high. Same deal. If you're available all weekend, your average monthly production is 350,000, and you on average get 150 new patients a month. Whereas if you don't, your numbers are roughly a third. This is the way the world is. You can't fight it. I told you I wasn't Santa Claus, but I also told you what you needed to hear, not what you want me to tell you. I'm just telling you the truth. It's all data. That's same thing. More new patients with the more you add hygiene. The average of guys who get pretty good secret shopper grades and add 100 hygiene appointments a year, it's still the same way. They grow. We did it the other day. They run about, on average, growing by $1.25 million a year. On average. The more they return, the more they refer, the more they trust you. That's where you get your implants, if there's any. That's where you get your braces. That's where you get your cosmetics. That's where you get your endo. That's where you get your TMJ, sedation, whatever the hell you want to do. You get it out of hygiene. Returning patients are far more valuable than new patients. Today's big case is keeping them in the practice. Now, this is one we sort of surprised us. We did last summer with our Northwestern University interns. And the returning patients had a slightly, a percent or two higher value per visit than the new patients did. And they went through, I think on this one here, they went through about 700 practices to get this data. It's a big deal. And then if you take this data and you multiply it by a 10-year period of returning patients, just if it's a cleaning at $100 a visit over a 10-year period, it's $2,000. If you max out their insurance, assuming that you believe it's $1,500, it's not. That'd be $15,000 to keep them in the practice over a 10-year period. Big deal. That's how you got to look at it. Well, what's your return on investment, John? Well, you can't really tell what it is unless you look at it over a 10-year period, right? This is the annuity that's sitting in front of all you guys. It's an annuity. It's ridiculous. No other business that I can think of has this. You're sitting on a gold mine. You just have to manage it. 100,000 returning patients is $15 million over a 10-year period. You deserve to practice from the Bahamas. What? Pardon me? This one here? Who was clapping? All right, good. You deserve to practice from the Bahamas. Yeah, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you, this is like almost the 40th year I've done this. Many of you guys around here, I work for 20, 30 years. A lot of guys, I work at 38, 39 years. It's not good for you to be a dentist too long. It wears you out. I mean, I'm not telling you older guys something you don't know, but your younger guys got to watch out. And I just talked, to talk with Jim, and he just had back surgery, and Shed's had a lot of back surgeries. It's not good, man. You got to get the hell out of the chair, please. Please, become a manager. Please become a manager. Get the hell out of the office. Get your systems in place. We'll talk about selling, but look at, I got $1 million. I'm a rich guy. No, you're not. You're going to get taxed 40%. And there's real inflation for things that people want. Cool things will cost more 10, 15, 20 years from now. You're going to live to be almost 100 years old, right? So you sell your practice at 50 years old or 60 years old, you got another 30, 40, 50 years to worry about. You could take $1 million divided by, do the math, take $1 million divided by 50 or whatever, or divide by 50, divide by 30, whatever. $8 million it's going to be $700,000, $600,000 after taxes. We'll go trailer park shopping. I got a double wide for you out in the middle of Nevada. Things are going to be more expensive. Porsche 911 costs about $100,000 now. In 1960s, it was $5,900, right? You could expect that same sort of a dynamic to occur 30, 40 years from now. Same rate, it'd be $200,000. Oh, I got my $1 million. Oh, I've got my investment fund advisor. They're going to take care of me. Yeah, right. That's going to be great. No, your practice is the phenomenal business. You retain your tax write-offs. Learn how to manage it. Get the hell out of the chair. Don't sell it. Give it to your kids. Well, they can't own a practice because the laws say this. Those laws are illegal. And if you're still worried about it, I got a lawyer who can get it so your associates own the legal part while they're associates, and then they give it to the next associates if you fire them or whatever. That's what the insurance companies do, right? Same lawyer we use, the insurance companies use. Oh, you can't own a practice if you're not a dentist. Oh, bull. That case has never gone to court, by the way. Never saw that. They couldn't win. It's business interference, restraint of trade. It's unconstitutional. A lot of laws are on the books that are illegal, right? They're out there to bully you. And there's no laws. Watch out for partnerships, please. We had another one go down in Minneapolis where the two partners are suing each other. We have a number of them now that are into the millions of dollars of legal fees. They never get resolved. It's horrible. Be very, very careful. Watch out for arbitration agreements. They're a mess. There's thankfully a number of exceptions, but the statistical probability in our 40 years of doing this is that there's really about maybe of many hundreds that were partnerships. There's maybe 10 that we know of around. They're in great shapes, and thank God they're in great shape, but scares the hell out of me. We talked a little bit earlier about culture, right? If you're going to have a Bahamas practice, you got to have a great culture. You got to remember that the best managerial system is a good compensation system to make sure your employees get compensated for doing things that they may not like to do. Everyone in your office has to be optimally focused, rewarded, and aligned. If you're going to be sitting off in Abu Dhabi, you damn well better make sure your employees are doing the right things, and you'll love the fact that you'll pay them more for making you more money and them more money and caring for the public. It's the right thing to do. I'm telling you. Oh, I already said watch out for capital gains tax. So who's going to buy your practice? Who's making the offers on the practices these days? How much money does the medical dental industry in the United States earn every year? Anyone have a guess? Can you Google it? No, because they can't get it. You can't get the information. Can you require that information from a federal entity? No, they don't have it. So we ran simple math. We might be off a little bit here, but it looks like it's $3 trillion. GDP of UK is 2.8. California, I think it's understated, is 2.5. Most of that's in the Bay Area. And Germany's 3.9. It's a big business. So don't they want to keep that, as much of that $3 trillion as they possibly can? What would keep them, what would make it so they would keep most of that $3 trillion? Utilization rate declines, right? So we started noticing it about 15, 16 years ago. They would buy some of our practices, and the minute they would buy them, they would fire us, fire the hygienists, cut the hours back to 9 to 5, do a lot of soft tissue. I think their databases shows them what we found out is basically you can drive people out of a practice by doing a lot of soft tissue and being legally sustainable and maybe ethically sustainable. They reduced utilization rates. When Neibauer sold his practice, it went from, 70 million a year or so down to 40 million a year annualized in about 6 months. They don't want utilization rate to go up. They want to play both sides of the ping pong game, right? Lower the deal. So how much of this $3 trillion do they keep? Oh, legal by statutes. By statutes, they've got to pay out 90% of their revenue, their revenues or whatever. Who could check them? No one can check them. It's illegal to check them. Exempt from investigation. You don't have to give their numbers. They don't got to give their numbers to anyone, and they're exempt from anti-competitive Sherman antitrust statutes. Look at this, and this is what they're telling people on the reports. These are lies. They get a lot more money than that. Anybody who has ever known anybody who works at an insurance company, it's all compartmentalized. No one centrally knows what's going on. No one really knows the numbers. They don't want to be, if you ever try suing them, they'll never go to court, they'll never take you to court, because they don't want to have the discovery process get into their books. They don't ever sue anybody. They'll use the government sometimes to go after you, but which happened to a buddy of mine recently, which is very upsetting. Bad news. Oops. You'll likely receive an offer from what appears to be a DSO, venture capital, or other dental office buying group. Is that your best offer? These guys usually get their money from the insurance industry, right? That's where the money ultimately comes from. And the money will not continue to come to these VCs who will make money on the sales of these practices when they bundle them up. The money won't go to the VCs if the VC and the dental practice management group does something that the money guys don't like, which is increasing utilization. Because the money comes from the insurance company, they don't want the utilization rates to go up. Does this make sense? And then, I'm showing you, if you really want to get your brain racked out and not sleep tonight, think about this. Whatever that has left over at the end of this year, they carry forward to the next year, and the next year, and the next year. So maybe it's a measly 400, 500 billion. A measly. That would be if there was 80% utilized. A lot of money. So they're trying to corner all sides of the market very quietly because they don't want the public to figure out what's going on, because if they did, they'd take away their Sherman antitrust exclusion. Delta still is a nonprofit, right? You know that. It's a nonprofit. They don't even have to pay taxes. It's a nonprofit. Nonprofit. It's a nonprofit. It's a charity. God. When Corey's dad's former partner started it up in Michigan 50, 60 years ago, or 70 years ago, it was a nonprofit. The money went directly to the practices. But then somebody took it over at some point. Oh my God, it's horrible. These guys will pay off all adversaries. They've been trying to buy me out for years. I'm not going to let them buy me out. What would happen to you guys? You go to hell. Not good. all they do is they take over practices and reduce utilization and increase their profits. Is that good for the public? They can't get in for a cleaning. They can't have. Yeah. Let's talk about profitability. How do you increase profitability? A lot of guys worried about profitability because a lot of times we increase new patient flows and so forth, and occasionally they say, I'm not profitable. Okay, if you want to be most profitable, get the best patients in your practice. Reduce the number of low profit hours and increase the number of high profit hours, right? Well, I mean, pay a bunch of hygienists to sit around, or if they do see a patient, they're running at a third the value of the patients that would come on Saturdays, Sundays, or evenings. The easiest way to increase profitability is have assisted hygiene. I mean, when they see 4 patients an hour, and each patient's worth $700, what's your return on investment for that hygienist? Think about it in basic business terms. It's a great, great investment, hugely profitable. Doctors have to make sure they check the maximum number per hour. Limit prime time restorative, of course, because if you're doing restorative, you can't check hygiene, you can't diagnose, you lose money. Minimize your taxes. Our CPA, which runs about 170 so of our practices, those guys I think probably saved maybe $200,000 a year on average on practices, and Joe's in the back, guide you there if you want to see him. Count only reasonably collectible productions. A lot of practices are thrown off by looking at these pie in the sky UCR, gross sales deals. Look at the real numbers. Work against the real numbers, the real collectible numbers. Don't be misled by fake numbers. This 1960s, well, this is what it ought to be number. Look at the real numbers. Pay associates as independent contractors. You'll make a lot more money, and they'll make a lot more money if they're independent contractors. All the accountants now are saying you can do it as well. It's not a problem. I mean, there might be some rules, and I can't act as an accountant, I can't act as a lawyer or anything like that, but this is the way the world is going. You don't got to pay payroll taxes, you don't got to pay all their insurance, all that type of crap. Hugely profitable, hugely profitable. Use a buying service like Unified Smiles. I mean, we love Walt's here. My God, reduce their overhead, lower supply costs, lower credit card processing, lower cost labs, improve operational processes, and optimize your inventory. Reduce your inventory around. There's a lot of waste. A lot of waste in the way that supplies are managed. We commonly run into practices where the receptionist or somebody will leave and they'll look in the back and they got 27 years worth of impression material sitting in the shelf, and they'll track it back, and there was some sort of a sweepstake where they got a trip to Tijuana or something like that the more they bought or whatever. All sorts of stuff like that going on. Watch that stuff. Get down there. Take a look. Optimize your insurance payments amount. 5 Lakes is pretty good for that. I think they're here. And by the way, I don't take any money for saying this stuff. It just cuts your overhead. And these are good, honest business guys. There's also Clint Johnson's company out in Arizona does a good job at this stuff. One of our clients up in Salt Lake City does e-assist to take your insurance staff out of your office. And some people have had some problems with it. Most people do pretty good with it, but you reduce the number of employees in your office. And I've known the owner for 20 years, and if there's a problem, he'd fix it for you. This is something that may sound kind of tricky to you, but if your doctors are checking less than 200 patients a month, it's an inefficient return on your doctor investment. If it's more than about 200 patients per month, it's an inefficient return on your doctor investment. The optimal amount's about 200. Above 200, the production per check goes down. Below 200, obviously, it's going to be less checks. So if you want to get the biggest return on your doctor investment, give them about 200 hygiene appointments a month to check. Obviously, weekends and evenings are way, way more profitable. They have better insurance, higher procedure payments, higher maximums, less time to hassle you. They don't care. They make a lot of money, more money to pay copays. Here's more of the same. Look at this. These insurance maximums on weekends. Almost 7% have $5,000 maximums, whereas middle of the day, middle of the week, about 4% did. 7% had $3,000 to $5,000 maximums on the weekend, whereas only 4% had it during the middle of the day, middle of the week. This is a big deal. This almost burnt out our computers to get this number. And I know that you'll say, well, wait a minute, around here. We took a sample of maybe 20 different areas of the US to see what the differences are in the amounts that insurance pays the practice, not the fee amount or whatever that, so the amount the insurance pays the practice per procedure. This is a big deal because it reflects acceptance levels and things like that. And you've got a 3-, 4-, 5-fold difference in a lot of these types of procedures. It's a big deal, big deal. And guess which patients will come in on the weekends? The guys are the best maximums. Best. So there's your profit right there. Better return on whatever staff investment you got, whatever amount of money you're paying per hour or week or day or whatever. Get the patients that got the best insurance and make the most money. You're going to get the highest profit out of the whole deal, right? They don't like it, too bad, pay them more money. Target, Walmart, those guys had all sorts of problems with sick outs on Saturdays and Sundays, right? It's not the world the way it ought to be. Well, what do? They pay them triple time. Triple time. But that employee increase expense is pennies compared to the sales that increase because they got good number of employees there. That's what you got to do. A lot more money. Obviously, assisted hygiene is it's ridiculously efficient, and it's unethical not to do it because it means that you're pushing away patients like crazy. You don't need to add staff. Now, this is a tough deal because in some markets where we work, hygienists are $5 an hour. Some markets where we work, they're $70 an hour. So in markets where they're real low, like in Eastern Canada where they're $25 an hour, don't assist them, just get more hygienists. But in most markets where they're like 40 or 50, it usually makes more sense to get assistants. But since assistants are more expensive these days, a lot of times it makes more sense to just get more hygienists. There's a lot of hygienists on the market. And, but whatever it is, you got to be able to accept the demands that we're trying to create. So you got to have more hygiene. But the classic system is to basically take the assistants that the doctor uses during the middle of the day, middle of the week, and apply them to the hygienists on the weekends and the evenings, so they're more efficient. They see 2 patients an hour. If Doris was here, she would tell you sometimes she would work 2. Doris ran a $20 million hygiene department for Neubauer. She would basically tell you sometimes she would see 5 patients an hour by running 3 pedos. The assistants could do those in most states. And then 2 clean recalls, and you only have 1 hygienist and 2 assistants. But you had basically 5 exams. 5 exams. That's what you want. $700 per exam. Maybe not on the pedo, but a lot of money. By the way, you want ortho? Go through pedo. Go through pedo. This is something that a lot of guys don't understand also, and it's difficult, and it makes your stomach ache. But you got to invest in order to grow. You got to invest in these appointments before you grow. So you got to basically add these capacities, and it's going to cost you, and your profit level's going to drop. But then it'll get way, way higher later on. You got to hold on, and then you got to do it again, and then you got to do it again. But before you know it, you're making a lot of money, and you're caring for a lot of public. Don't add operatories, office space, or additional offices before your current chairs are filled 70 to 80 hours or more a week. Keep your overhead low. Don't be driving around all over the place going to a bunch of offices. It's not like trinkets on your bracelet or whatever. Get efficiency out of one office. You ought to be doing $1 million per chair per year, really, before you add another operatory, or $1 million per chair per year before you add another chair, before you add another office. Keeping it under one roof. We've had practices pull as much as 60% of their overall marketplace into the practice by just basically giving the customers what they want at one location. Easy to do. Just got to continue. You got to give them what they want. It's simple. But driving around goes crazy. All right, let's go through these things real quickly. We added about just under 1 million hygiene patients in 2018, but still it's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath of lost patients. I can, for any one of you guys, I can run these big old long list of individuals who haven't been in your practice for the last year who came in as new patients over the last 5 years. They're not coming back. Why aren't they coming back? Most of the time it's because they've been because they weren't properly pre-appointed. Well, we pre-appointed 100%, John. Well, if you put them in the middle of the day, middle of the week, you may as well just kick them in the butt. They ain't gonna come back. No more. You can only pre-appoint Saturdays, Sundays, and evenings. Otherwise, they ain't gonna come back. You lose, oh my God, the money you lose is crazy. It's nuts. And returning patients are really important. You gotta constantly add desirable hygiene. Our dear departed pal, Jack, says we don't even consider them to be patients unless they return for 3 recall appointments. New patients are way over-related. You can't sustainably grow if you are not cumulatively retaining your recently new and existing patients. These practices that call us on a daily basis, 5 a day, whatever they are, that are declining 30, 40% a year, all have hygiene departments that are declining because they're trying to shove people into middle of the day, middle of the week hygiene departments. Occasionally, you'll run into them, they'll hammer them with soft tissue, or they'll hammer them with big cases, or sleep stuff or something like that. But generally speaking, they just don't pre-appoint them. That's the way it ought to work. This took me only 20 years to figure out. So I don't make you think I'm some sort of smart guy, because some of this stuff took a long time. And it's right under our nose, because I kept seeing our guys in the 80s go, they tell me they had 98.734% hygiene retention. I go, that's great. And I believed them. I was kind of dumb. And these are smart guys, really good guys. But they were just counting the patients that had manifested the desire to leave the practice, like it was a country club or something. And they counted it against what they believed was their patient base. And then, well, we had 16 people die or move away, so therefore my retention rate's 97.667%. They were wrong, because they had and this took me a long time to see, but I would get them 2,000 new patients a year, and they had the same one hygienist for 5, 6, 7 years in a row. Now, how does that work out? How can that possibly be the case they're retaining people? They're not. So that's when we started looking at the other ways to define it. For a while, we were trying to track individuals that were new patients and see how often they came back 6 months later. And that was 50% of the time. But really, when the capacity to process patients stayed the same, it just means those 50 that came back were kicking out 50 that were in the practice, right? Unless you could increase the appointment levels, open appointment levels, you're basically going to kick out somebody somewhere along the line. So that's scary, because you got to make these investments. Does this make sense? Look at it another way. This is at $700 per hygiene check. No, $770 per hygiene check. So if you get 50 new patients in January, I'm going to burn my ears out going by that thing. But if you get 50, these guys should continue to come back, right? So those guys have a value of $38,000. If you add the ability to process an additional 50 patients 6 months later, they have a value of $77,000 a month. 3 of those, they have a value of $115,000, because they're all exams. They're all exams. And then 4 of them, it's $154,000. This is just at 50 patients a month. Oh my God, I don't want to have to pay that hygienist $75 an hour. Oh my God. Well, you're going to get $154,000 that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten on, maybe a $7,000 a month investment that these guys would have otherwise not come back. Make sense? Big deal. The U.S. average now is 744.85 per hygiene check. That's including exams, x-rays, cleaning, and restorative. You have to look at it as one entity. That's the way, because that's inevitable. They're inextricably tied. Some areas it's like real high. Somebody have a question? That's collectible production. Yeah. Although our data, Larry, is that you? The data is not perfect, because some guys don't enter the data perfectly, but somewhere around there. Oh.
I have another question if
Thanks,
you have
Larry.
time for it. There's just one thing I can't quite understand about paying the associates. I've been practicing dentistry for as long as you've been in business.
You poor son of a gun.
And I realized early on that, I can get any patient to agree to do any work that I want, and I can get them to make an appointment, but I can't get them to show up. So if I was an associate and I was paid at the time, that the patient accepted the treatment,
Yeah.
I'd be incentivized to get these patients to accept the treatment, make an appointment, get my money, and most of them wouldn't show up.
First of all, you got to look at you and I got to look at why it is they're not showing up, and there's usually about 5 or 6 reasons why they wouldn't show up. And if you start erasing those, they'll generally show up. If you make them make an appointment and they put a deposit down, and the appointment's within a couple of days or so, if it goes more than a couple of days, then they're not going to show up. The longer they have to wait, the more they're likely going to show up. If they hem and haw about a copay, just say, hey, this is too important to us here at this practice, we'll pay that copay for you. And then they'll show up, generally speaking. I'm going to go into some of the associate stuff in a couple of minutes. But I got to, how am I on time? Huh? How many minutes? 30 minutes! Oh, this is like heaven. Thank you, guys. What's the next lucky questioner? Does anyone have jokes? We have to, for every question there has to be a joke. No, I'm sorry.
John,
No,
I have
yes.
a question.
Yeah.
Even with a practice with a 98% return rate, and they're doing...
Which we've never seen.
I'm sorry?
Which we've never seen.
Okay. A 98% reappointment rate.
Oh,
okay.
Pre-appointment rate?
Yes. In other words, they're appointing every patient that leaves the office for the next hygiene appointment.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're doing everything well with the phones, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Human nature is still you have a cancellation rate, right? Okay.
Yeah.
In your big practices, what is the data on your cancellation rates for returning patients? And do you do any research as to why the human nature that these patients just don't come back for whatever reason?
We know that if they're diagnosed with soft tissue, they're not going to come back. We know if they're presented an amount that exceeds insurance maximums when they didn't perceive a problem coming in, they're less likely to come back. You make them take off work, they're less likely to come back. They can take off school, they're less likely to come back. I'm talking about for hygiene. But even if you do everything absolutely perfectly, you're going to find that it's going to be probably 80, 90% on a Saturday and Sunday in the evening, and probably a 30%, 40%, 50% maybe middle of the week. If you really got super smart, which I'd love to see done one of these days, you calculate out what those cancellation rates are and overbook by that amount to fill it up. A lot of practices are playing around with extra columns and things like that to make sure it's as full as you guys are, I think. So you just fill it up. So when you get on the airplane over the weekend, if there's 150 seats in the airplane, the airline will book 160 because they know human nature. They do everything right, but they're still going to cancel. But I played one practice out, a pedo practice out in Hawaii, Chris Yamada's. I got to watch it real closely, and I watched the pre-appoint rate, and I got him one time to overbooked by the amount that the cancellation, and I filled it up 100% for a couple of months. But he burned out and he sold. But it's real hard to do. But you got to really, really be careful with it. Be scientific about it, and you can if you limit the variables that cause cancellation, you'll do pretty darn well. And then if you overbook by the amount of probable cancellation, you'll fill it up 100%, and but it's not a perfect world. You're right. It's not a perfect world. Oh, good. I hope I just don't go too long.
John, why would you not want to ask a patient what kind of insurance they have? In our area, we frequently get calls from Denti-Cal.
We love Denti-Cal.
HMO.
We love HMO.
Or United Concordia, which we feel pioneered new ways to deny patients their reimbursement. The second question is, how do you handle people who don't show? I mean, are you supposed to reappoint them? Are you supposed to charge them? And the third question
Wonderful.
is,
I hope I remember the first one.
The third question is with the hygiene. I mean, if you want more hygiene patients, are they 1 patient per hour, or you're doing 10
4
patients per day? Or?
And all chairs, all hygiene, Saturdays and Sundays.
No, I'm saying per hygienist. Are you
2.
booking them on an hourly rate? Are you booking them every 45 minutes, or how are you doing that?
Well, I mean, the studies show that, that you get them down to 45 minutes, it's no problem. You get them out of the chair in 35 minutes, it's no problem. But you pay them by the patient. You guarantee them local. Guys play with different ways to do this. But generally speaking, you guarantee them their local daily rate, or 80% of that for every patient above one patient. So if they get $50 an hour, they'll get $90 an hour if they see 2 patients an hour. They love it. The only problem, as I mentioned before, is sometimes they get over aggressive and they see 5 patients an hour, 6 patients an hour, and maybe you're rushing them through a little bit. But I'd rather have that than have them see 1 patient every hour or something like that. Other practices are seeing cutting the hours back to 45 minutes without assistance. Some are down to 35 minutes without assistance. It's just different ways to do it. As to your Denti-Cal and your welfare questions, what part of the state of California are you in? We love California. We love Bakersfield. Oh, what a lovely town. Fresh air capital of the world. Oh, man, I tell you. I know, man, it's bad news. I go in there, man, it's like, Kate, the statistical probabilities, now you've got a much higher unemployment rate. Jesse, what is it? It's about 12% or in Tulare. Is Jesse here? He was. I upset him, probably. No, you got a real high unemployment rate there. You have a higher probability. You have a higher probability of Medi-Cal and welfare and stuff like that in South Central Valley areas. But you still got an unemployment rate of like around, 5% there, something like that? Do you know what it is? About 5? So still the vast majority of people are working. So the statistical probability is that the people are not going to have, they're going to have PPO insurance. We work all up and down the Central Valley for 30 years. And it is more likely that you're going to have the Medi-Cal calls and the HMO calls and stuff like that. HMOs basically don't exist in the United States. You may get a lot of calls because maybe you used to be a provider for an HMO, and you maybe used to be a provider for Medicaid or something like that, and you'll get more calls than you would have gotten had you never provided. But basically, if you start digging into the guys, what type of insurance do you got, you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And we got a lot of practices where we've taken them out of full HMO practices or full Medi-Cal practices or whatever the welfare practices. I got one in Detroit right now that we're doing that too, Dave Apsey's, which I wish was here, where, if you start, digging into what type of insurance they got over the phone, you're going to alarm the PPO patients and to the point to where you're going to say things most likely that is very unlikely to make them think that their insurance doesn't work well at your office. And if you do that, they're gone. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's better to get these guys in, and if it turns out they've got welfare, just do what you can, and if you're still taking welfare, put it in the middle of the day, middle of the week. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't, but you don't want to do anything that possibly interrupts the flows of the people with the best insurance and the highest incomes. So you start whittling around and digging into what type of insurance you got, they're done, they're gone. So it's better statistically to just live with the fact that at least for a while, a few people will come through with Medicaid or HMO or whatever. Give them a cleanings, tell them their insurance doesn't work well here anymore, or HMO, any insurance anyhow. Take care of them, don't have any fights at the front desk. Try to convert them over to your individual dental plan if you've got them, and if you don't have them in Bakersfield, you should have it. And take care of them. Sometimes the guys with HMOs and Medi-Cal have a lot of money. You win them over, keep them in the practice. I've had stories, kind of anecdotal, where the biggest patient the guy had in a year was an HMO patient. So don't block them on the phone, please. And then what was the other question? Did I miss one? My memory's not good beyond 2 questions. Oh, no, you just kill him. You kill him. You shoot him. Now, if you got a bunch of no-shows, you got to look at the reason why you got the no-shows. It's not the patient's fault. It's the practice's fault, right? You can do things in the practice to reduce the probability of no-shows. How long do they wait? What did you say over the phone? Did you say something that upset them? Maybe the fact that you asked them, do you have HMO or do you have Medicaid, maybe that alone will cause 50% increase in no-show rates. Get them in within a day. The longer they make them wait, the less likely they're going to show up. Make them take off work, they're not going to show up. Americans, like I said earlier, Americans don't tell you all the time what's going on in their head or how upset they are. They're non-confrontational, but they're pissed. They're pissed. Oh, that was a beautiful cleaning. I'll see you 6 months from now. They walk out of there. You never see them again. So you got to make sure that the language that you're using and the configuration of your schedule is giving them what they want. So they go, holy Lord, this is a great place. Got to go to this office. Hit 10,000 people in a company. 10,000 people in a company. But if you upset them, 10,000 people, stay away. Stay away. Oh, good. More questions. Yeah. Please. What's your name? Hey, Justin. How you doing, man? Thank you, sweetheart.
So I have had quite a few patients come into the office with insurances that we don't work with.
What are those?
We're, well, HMO, then account.
That's not insurance. But it's okay. I understand what you mean.
So we are a PPO-only practice, and so when we have these patients come in, because we don't block them on the phone,
Yeah.
I've had these experiences with these patients where, well, actually, we take the time to speak with them. They love their visit at the office. They love us.
Yeah.
It's about creating that patient experience.
Yeah.
And they say, I want to come here. What do I do?
Yeah.
So that's just where you take the time, talk to them, and patients realize, oh, so my employer's my roadblock. You say, absolutely. With your employer, they'll offer you a variety of packages.
You're a smart guy.
Bring those in.
Yeah,
I'll help you choose them.
You're a smart guy.
And then what they do is they tell their fellow employees, because they say, I love this office.
Yeah.
Choose this plan. This is what works best. There you go.
God bless you, pal. Really appreciate it. And the thing is that a lot of times they can switch their insurance over right away. Sometimes they can't. And if you've got an individual dental plan, which you all should have, you say, hey, look, for only $9 a month, this is pretty darn good coverage, which works out of our office, and you can use this until your re-enrollment period comes up, and that's the way it goes. Really appreciate it. Thanks, man, so much. All right, so the golden rule of practice growth is the more new and returning patients the doctor checks in exams, in hygiene, the more restorative will be diagnosed. Duh, but they grew 77,000 a month per 100 hygiene patients that were added per month. In order to grow, you got to first add those appointments. I want to show you a snapshot of every one of these practices that I'm going to show you represents maybe another dozen or so that I'm not showing you of what happens when you add 100 hygiene appointments a month. This does not account for good secret shopper grades. It's just adding 100 hygiene appointments a month. They always grow by about $1 million a year, and they always add about 100 new patients a month. Always. I'll just show you. I'll go through these. And I'm not hiding these guys. I'm not hiding anybody's names. Want to see that, Dave? That's you. I'm not hiding anybody's names. I just didn't have the time to call them all up and ask them, hey, can I put your name on there? But these are real guys. You can go to their offices. This is not bullshit. This is the real stuff. This guy's speaking tomorrow. He'd be happy to show you that, I think. Every time you do it, it always occurs. Always, always occurs. Add 100 hygiene appointments a month, year over year, new patient flow goes up by 100, you grow by 1 million, roughly. That guy's pretty close to you, Larry. Real close to you. But that's what he did. And this is what happens if you don't. These practices all had fewer hygiene appointments year over year or stagnant. They all decline. All decline. All decline. I can take these practices, I can spend $1 million a month in marketing. You're not going to see any different. If they start the month with 50 patients, 50 appointments open, I spend $1 million on marketing that month. How many more patients am I going to add to the practice? 50. 50. It's hard to think this way, but this is the way it is. Boom. Always happens. They're not going to take off work or school, but they will take off work when the great doctor says, your head's going to fall off, you're going to die, don't chew on that side, watch out for hot and cold. Judy, when can we get Mrs. Jones in here? When's as soon as we can get her in here? Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Mrs. Jones, don't miss that appointment. You will die. You will die. Unemployment rate in the U.S. now is 4%. It's declining almost everywhere in the U.S., remarkably, which means that the demand for patients in evenings and weekends is even greater now than it was a decade ago, and it's increasing every year. They won't take off work. Embrace it. Don't try to fight it. There's nothing you can do about it. I can't market around it. I told you before, in a lot of crazy countries, they don't even open up middle of the day, middle of the week anymore. Outdated, still too common outdated pre-appointment policies cause cancellation. Cause cancellation. Well, you're here on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock. We'll put you back 6 months from now on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock. It doesn't work. So they're here on a holiday or a day off. 6 months later, they're back at work. Strict rule has to be, oh, no, I'm not going to show you that. I'll show you this. What the hell? I got a couple minutes. Maybe the video will actually go on. Let's see. Huh? Oh, good. Thank you, guys.
All right, Nicole, let's go ahead and set up that 6-month cleaning appointment. I'm looking at January.
Okay, I don't know where I'm gonna be in January, 6 months from now, the schedule.
It's really hard, but since you do work, I'm thinking that if we choose a late evening or a Saturday appointment, that would be better for you.
Okay, yeah, great.
Now, is 6:30 late enough or is Saturday better?
You know what, let's go with Saturday's probably gonna be best.
I think that's easy to do. What's a good time of day for you?
Maybe in the morning?
How's 9 o'clock sound?
Great.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and put you in there.
Okay.
Great, and I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah,
6
you
months,
too.
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Great. All righty. And any problems that we can change it if it gets close.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Well, you can grab your things and we'll go out in the front.
Okay.
So you don't make assumptions about where they are. You know they work. Don't take a chance of having to miss that follow-up appointment. Block it off. A lot of you guys are blocking off middle of the day, middle of the week anymore. They won't come back if you put them in the middle of the day, middle of the week. They're not going to come back. Just tell them, I care a lot about you. I care about your health. I don't want to do anything that increases the likelihood you're not going to come back. And since you work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I will put you only in times where you can come back without taking off work. Would a Saturday be good for you? Would a Sunday be good for you? Or would an evening be good for you? What's best? You'll triple the show rate, quadruple the show rate by doing that. But if you do the 1980s outdated deal, well, you're here on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock, let's get you 6 months later, it's not going to work no more. Not going to work. They don't trust dentists anymore. You got to make it easy on them. Make it easy on them. Remove the roadblocks. Get them back. Get an exam out of it. What the heck? It's a big deal. No value of that. The value of a marketing patient has to be looked at over a 10-year period. What's the value if they leave your practice right away? We still went through the database recently of the 400 or 500 that we actually can go in and see where they're pre-appointed. Staff is still putting them in at 10:30 on Tuesdays because that's when they want to work. That's when they want to work, but the patients won't come back. They'll talk them into it, and the patient wants to get the hell out of the office. They'll agree to it. They don't come back. At the same time, 85% of people tell us that, and that's conservative, that they will not go back to a hygiene appointment, makes them take off work or school. Oh, I love questions. Who's the lucky questioner this time? Who do we have? I can't see. Who is that?
This is Huang Chuang.
Hi, how are you? Thank you
I'm
for
good.
coming.
Thank you. This is my first time.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry.
Just a question for someone like me just getting started
Yeah.
and typical office where you have.
Where are you?
Sacramento, California.
Where in Sac are you?
Northern California.
No. I went to Davis, so I know Sac. I used to work in Sac.
Natomas.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yes. So someone that's starting out like me and having the typical 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30
Yeah.
hours. So where do you start? I mean, you have something and you don't have the patient base to adding those double hygienes, or you're having, how do you
question.
add
Great question.
the time? I mean, is it the chicken
it's a-
before the eggs before the chicken? I mean, where
No. I know your question, and you're like about probably around 20,000, 30,000 practices that have called us over the last 7 years or so. Basically, you're going, oh my God, I'm not making any money right now. You're asking me to add more overhead. What am I going to do? I'm saying, there's a really cool way to do it, and that's to shift your existing staff Not increase your staff salaries, but keep your staff salaries the same and move it from the 9 to 5 to maybe 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock during the week. And then forget about a Wednesday, forget about a Tuesday, shut them down, and open up Saturdays and Sundays every day. Now, I know you're going, my staff's going to rebel, right? You put a good incentive system on for the hygienist. You tell them, if it fills, I'll pay you this much more. You probably know what your per hygiene check rate is right now, and you can predict the conservatively how much money you'll earn as a result of these types of changes. So you keep your overhead the same, just shift that overhead around to the hour. You have an assistant, right?
Yes, I have an assistant.
You have a hygienist?
Yes.
Okay, so she's seeing one patient an hour?
Well, yeah, well, we used to. We're just starting about 3 months ago with you guys, so we're just starting adding just some of the mornings and some of the afternoon, and we have putting the assistant in those hours.
Yeah. So you just take your assistant and give it to the hygienist, and so you don't increase your costs there either. So this is then you clean up the phones. You got to be getting perfect secret shoppers, and basically, just even if you haven't done any marketing yet, just by having the availability that the market wants, we've seen it time and time again over many, many years. The fact that you say yes to the wealthier sector of the marketplace that's working or is in schools, they'll start flowing in even without any marketing, just on the referral basis. Do you have a retail location? For $300, I'll put a sign up that will drive a lot of people in the door right away. Get you out of this misery. I'm so sorry you're having to go through this, but you don't need to spend more money. Just take your existing assets, shift them around so they give the customer what they want. I'll help you any way I can, after this if you like, but it's kind of counterintuitive. It's not more staff, it's just the same staff that gives more appointments during the time when the marketplace will only come in, and we'll spend a lot more money with you. Hope that helps a little bit. We're seeing an awful lot of manipulation all over the place, but if you don't increase hygiene, this is the type of hygiene department you're going to get, and the longer the one patient comes back year over year, less production. All right, I'm hurrying. I got to show some guys. I'll show you the mathematics of same-day dentistry. You got to be really, really careful with that. If the doctor intermixes cleanings with restorative care, it's dangerous for both the doctor and the patients. They should only be doing cleaning, hygiene exams during the evenings and the weekends, and absolutely limited restorative. Because if they jump up from restorative to do exams, they're not as good as exams, and they're not as good as diagnosticians because they can't see as well. It burns them out, takes 10 years off their careers. Have them do as much of exams only during the hygiene periods, Saturdays and Sundays and evenings. Burns them out. We already talked about that. It's basically the same thing. I'm not going to. Let's talk a little bit about. This is an important concept that a lot of people hesitate investing in hygiene because they see that their existing hygiene's not full. Never fills. Nowhere in the world does it fill. I mean, I just talked about Chris Yamada's place in Hawaii. We got it full, but that was really hard work, and we had to micromanage it really closely. But we just don't see it anymore, and we see more of this than anybody in the world. It doesn't fill. Maybe occasionally you'll find one that has like 65%, 75% fill rates. Middle of the day, middle of the week, 50%. Saturdays, 70%. And practices will hesitate investing in hygiene because they go, holy Lord, the hygienist that I currently have isn't fully busy yet. That's not a very wise thing to do when you got 4,000 new patients last year and you hadn't added any hygiene. You got to add hygiene in proportion to your recent years' new patient flows. You have to proactively always add it, even if they're full. And as I suggested earlier, and even if in most of you guys' practice, if you pay a hygienist $50 an hour and they only see one, so that means the shift pay is $400, and your average hygiene check is worth $770, or whatever your average is. So we can give you your averages for a lot of you guys are way higher than that. Even if that hygienist sees one patient a shift, it's a profitable entity. It's a profitable entity. Do you see that? It's a profit, but the chances of them seeing only one patient a shift on a Saturday or a Sunday or evening is almost zero. It's usually almost full, almost always. Almost always. The best investment you can make in life. But if you sit around and go, oh, they're not full yet, it's never full. It's never going to get full. Todd Bickling, I think, speaking later today. Todd, are you here? These guys, they never come in and listen to me. Those now they're out there kabootsing in the hallway or something. But anyway, he'll tell you that he hires them blindly at 65%. Whenever it's 65%, even though he doesn't do the math, he just looks at the percentage of fill rate. When it's 65%, he just adds them. I say, if you got 50 new patients in January, for July, add 50, because you're going to get 50 new patients plus the 50 that are going to come back, right? If you don't add them, you're exiting the patients. But no one's done that yet. No one's done that yet. It's scary. It's scary. It's scary. It's scary. But that's how the math ought to be done. Make sense? This is really important. If you got a 75% or if you got a 70% fill rate, 30% of it's empty, but then you see twice as many patients at that same fill rate, you double your practice. Even though the hygienist sits around a lot of the time. You got to think of it like a restaurant. I mean, go to these fancy restaurants around here at 4 o'clock today or 3 o'clock today. You're going to see a bunch of waitresses standing around doing things other than they're supposed to do. Same thing in dentistry. You always got new patients going into the cauldron. You always got returning patients into the cauldron. The vessel, the glass has to always get bigger, otherwise it's going to quietly overflow. Your hygiene department, the numbers have to go up every month. And I'm going to jump to other stuff because I'm running out of time, and I know you guys are getting sick of seeing me up here, so I got to, here's overbooked by 30%. This is Seeger's office. Seeger's back here. He runs great stats. He shows the correlation between hygiene appointments and production, which is, kind of obvious to us, but he actually charted it. This is the value of a hygiene. Reactivation is one of the most cost-effective media that you can use, right? Because you got staff sitting around anyway. If you say the right things, you're going to get an awful lot of people back. Jack Falvo thinks maybe 30%. But if you don't have the appointments, you shouldn't reactivate. You got to have the appointments first, right? I'm not talking about midday hygiene, Saturday, Sunday, weekend hygiene, then reactivate. But if you reactivate and you don't got the appointments, go get a pizza instead. Not going to make any difference. Get a pizza. Get a pepperoni pizza. That'll be good for you. I'm not going to waste time on this. We want you to have a great life, be our friend and client for many more decades, and not burn out in the chair. You must perfect the art and science of hiring and optimizing associate doctors. Selected and managed properly, the worst associate can become your best. And this is really important for you, Larry, in your upcoming relationship. With 200 a month patients checked in hygiene, it's time. Way too long, and it'll soon become too late. 200 a month checked in hygiene is the statistical point by which you become less efficient as a doctor. So in less than that, it's less efficient. Right around 200 is where you got to add them. Don't want you burning out. We did postmortems on about 300 associateship failures a couple of years ago. The most common reason why the associateship failed is because they didn't add enough hygiene appointments for the new doctor to check, and it cannibalized the income of the existing doctor, and the new doctor didn't make that much money. So they both were pissed, then they just split real quick. You got to think of it, it's almost like you got a bucket of water, and you have the senior doctors pulling out of this bucket of water all for many, many years, right? When you bring a second doctor in, same bucket of water. It dissipates real quickly. Nobody does well, but when you add 2 buckets of water, and the associate goes after that bucket, and the existing guy goes after that bucket, that's when you're talking. And I'd add 2 hygienists who are assistant for every associate that you add. And of course, their hours make a big difference. Got to have perfect secret shopper grades. Got to pay them immediately on acceptance. Probably the guys who worked in the insurance company Mills for the first 3 years after graduation are the best. They're pretty quick. Although in the dental schools now, the insurance industry's sponsoring curriculums, which basically are teaching them to underdiagnose. Why would they do that? Any idea? Welcome to America. Always have at least a week or two working interviews. Have them be your assistant. There's data to suggest that the longer that they are your assistant, the better they'll do once you let them on their own. Obviously, if they're checking patients with higher maximums, higher incomes, and make more money, they're going to get more acceptance, and they're going to look like they're better associates than if they were checking midweek. In the 80s, I opened up like 300 or 400 offices for guys that used to be associates. So I inadvertently did a mass interview of why associates have failed. And one of the biggest problems they complained about is that the senior doctor would cherry pick the cool cases. And they got really upset. I don't know if it was money or they just wanted to do the cases. Whatever it was, they're upset about it. So don't do that. Obviously, if the hygiene pre-appointment process is screwed up, if you use a 1980s approach, your associate's not going to do good. Senior doctors got to tell them what's going on. Mentor the guy, train him. Some guys are shy and don't want to do that. Some guys, I think, quietly don't want the associate to do that good. They want them to fail so they'll look like they're better or something. I'm not a psychiatrist like some of our buddies are back here, but I can tell you there's a lot of weird-ass stuff that goes on. Insurance mishandling, obviously, will make the associate look like they're inept. 1-2 day week per associates usually swing for the fences, and that upsets patients. And actually, I've got data on that now. Limit case presentation to under insurance maximums unless the patient perceives an issue. That's a universal rule anyway. Ensure the hygienist and staff properly pre-sell the associate and diagnosis to the patient. You're going to love this guy. He's great. I think I see a crown. I think you might need a crown on this one here, but we'll get Dr. Smith in here. He's fantastic. You can really trust him. He's my kid's dentist. He knows what he's doing. Write down that crown on number 16 or whatever, and doctor comes in and says the same thing. If the hygienist and the assistant had said it before, the associate's going to do better. It's corroborative sale. It's a pre-sale. Expectation, it's placebo. Make sense? I hope. If acceptance is low, give the associate the freedom to pay the copay for the patient, right? When they start saying, let me talk to my husband about it, if they have the opportunity to say, well, Mrs. Jones, I just can't have you leave like this, and it's just, it's my duty to take care of you here. Accordingly, the practice, and I will pay your copay for you if you don't mind staying around for an extra hour. We'll take care of that for you. So, the math is that $700 or whatever you're going to get from insurance on that thing is better than the goose egg, particularly for an associate who you're trying to build up the practice for. And I told you earlier about the associate, when they don't pay him a percentage of exams, they don't check. It's crazy, but that's the behavior, so you have to be really careful. Staff will quietly guide better patients to the senior doctor for better bonuses. We've seen that 1,000 times. You got to be careful to counteract that. Personality test and background check these guys. There's one of our great practices who may be here now who had an associate who they had to fire recently, and they did a background check not before they hired her, but just before they fired her, found out she'd been bankrupt like about 6 times and had a lot of real bad financial problems. You don't want to have those types of guys in your practice. And also in many states, if that individual who you are hiring, whether it's an associate or not, had caused harm in any way to another individual, employee or not, and you bring the person in and you could have found that out in a background check, you're responsible for that employee's behavior if you're the owner of the practice. It's not a one-way street when you're a practice owner. And you're also, by the way, as a side, and I should probably tell you this, and I know I don't have much time, but if you have people in your office or offices who misbill Medicare welfare, and it's fraudulent, I can tell you they will put you in jail, even though you didn't know what was going on. They will put you in jail. And that's the way law works. Knew or should have known. Knew or should have known. You're responsible. You're the beneficiary of it, right? Well, you should have known. Most lawyer contracts offend the dentist and negatively taint the relationship. I've got data on that. Don't worry about them stealing your patients and opening them down the street. If they do, I will be happy to get my Chrisad vacuum cleaner out and suck all the patients out of their practice. Boom! I'll get them! Just like that. So don't worry about that stuff. Here's the data that shows that these guys got to be working about 32, 33 hours a week. This is a few hundred associates. The numbers are kind of high here because there's an awful lot of specialists in a lot of our practices, and we couldn't pull out the specialist numbers. This is the data to show that if you got a contract, which by the way are not enforceable. I'm an expert witness in all these deals, and it's like the only body who wins on these things is the lawyers. We had one that went to the Iowa State Supreme Court, and they gave the victory to the owner doctor for the associateship's breach of contract or whatever. The damage was $1. She spent $800,000 on legal fees. Not going to win. Not going to win. Have a good relationship. Have a nice relationship with these guys. Just write it down on a piece of paper in English. If you get pregnant, this is what happens. You want to take a day off, you want to quit, whatever. All right, quickly, I got to go. They're going to get mad at me. There's some really cool schedules. Blue is all hygiene, 5 chairs, 5-chair example. Midday example, mostly restorative. Limited hygiene, if any hygiene at all. We want them to turbo check hygiene. This is a great pedo office. This is one of the, this guy, this guy had to stop using our services about 6 years ago because he did so well he couldn't market. He called me up the other day. He actually emailed me the other day. He said, Don, I want to work with you to open up another dozen practices in Florida. This is a holiday Saturday hygiene schedule. It's a pedo office, but it's the same deal for restorative. That's what you got to do. Do you want little Bobby wants to have his crown done now, or no, I don't do it except for 9 in the morning to noon, Monday through Friday. I'm not going to interrupt my hygiene checks. No way. That one was doing like $300,000 or $400,000 a month, one doctor. And those aren't even hygienists, because with pedo, in most states, I don't know, many states, you can just use, assistants. It's amazing. And a lot of times the compensation's ridiculously high. Insurance compensation's way high. This is Canada, 8 checks, 9 checks an hour, one doctor. This is Justin's about 5 years ago. This is it about 4 years ago. When we were in Guatemala, me and Justin, I noticed that that office didn't get much bigger over the last year. Way bigger. It's way bigger. I wanted to get it even bigger. But this is Declan's. I think Declan's talking today, which is really cool. This is 3 shifts. Voted as being the best place to work in Hawaii by staff. Work when you want to work, come in when you don't want to work. All hygiene before work, all hygiene Saturdays, all hygiene Sundays. Shut down middle of the day, middle of the week. Now, Declan changes this up a little bit, so I don't know exactly how it is right now, but this is at a snapshot about 4 years ago where it was exactly this configuration. It was really cool. It was a hospital schedule. Work all shifts, work no shifts. Higher your seniority is, the more you get to work. Really cool. I wish more places would do this. This is just a simple 5-chair practice growth model. This was actually Neibauer's first office. Then when he was doing about $40,000 a month and no income, really doing bad. And he's that boom, 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 $1 million per chair per year. Simple, but you got to continually invest in the ability to process more patients. Doctor hygiene teams. That's 3 doctor hygiene teams doing $450,000 on $500,000, $500-something on a 5-chair practice. Pretty easy. Back then, we didn't know that we could go earlier on Saturdays and Sundays or later on Saturdays and Sundays. We probably could have got this one up to, 1.3 million per chair per year. And then he opened up an 18-chair facility, got it to 18 million real quick. Just doing this stuff. Yeah. Jeff. Sure. This is a simple model. Restorative middle day, middle of the week, hygiene, evenings, Saturdays, mornings. Incidentally, the mornings are becoming, with the ridiculous traffic in most metropolitan areas and super low unemployment rates, the mornings are becoming less of an optimal approach, because it's essentially, if you take a look at the evenings, and they stay around until 9 o'clock at night, so you've got like 4 hours between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock where you can check patients and you keep them later if you want to do restorative work. But at the mornings, if they come in at 7:30, they only got an hour before they got to go to work. You get 1 hour out of it. It's not quite as efficient as it used to be. I got to go quick. I'm sorry. This is another model. I mean, that's Paul Zollinger out in Minneapolis. And this is like $300,000 or $400,000 a month practice. And it's like 300 now, I think. Something like that. He only works 3 days a week. I think they work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday the first week, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday the second week, so they get long, 4 days off every so often. They switch it back and forth. It's really cool. Talk about smiles on their faces, man. They're happy as can be. He bonuses the hell out of them. Make a lot of money, nicest people in the world, make a ton of money. That's what you want. This guy here is one of the smartest guys in Colorado. He sits there, he just brags. I make $1 million, I make $1 million, $1.5 million a year. I don't hardly ever work. This is how I do it. And they always, he goes, speaks at the association. So do you do the mini implant? No. I just open up in the evening with hygiene. Check them all. All right. I got to get out of here. This basically says stuff that you guys already know, I hope. That their cleaning occurs something like 50 times more often than restorative, so you got to make sure that that's handled right financially. And they'll judge you and they'll trust you or not trust you if you're on the basis of what they pay for a cleaning. So it's got to be nothing out of pocket. Of course, you've got to be careful with that because you have some contracts with some insurances that say you got to charge it. Honestly, I can't advise you to breach a contract, but almost all of our clients don't charge it, even if they're supposed to charge it, because they don't want to do anything that on this normative, cyclical milk, cheese, and eggs type of a deal is going to spoil the patient, going to foul the patient. Walmart, for instance, will take the prices of things that you will cyclically and normally buy, and they'll lower them down, sometimes at loss levels. And the stuff that you don't normally buy, they'll charge you a lot more for. That's how these guys make money, right? That's the same thing with a cleaning. But I'm not asking you to lose money on a cleaning. I'm asking you to make $770 on a cleaning. It's simple. Insurance guys are really, really good. Let me go back. No, in-network or not, no new or returning patient should pay 1 penny for any cleaning visit at any time. That's fundamental. We don't have that big of a problem with that right now, thank goodness. But remember, you lose one patient on the basis of insurance, you lose the whole company. Because they all got the same insurance. So does the family. On the other hand, if you get the patient on the basis of insurance, you get the whole company because they all got the same insurance. The same with the whole family. So it's a big, big deal. You've got to be really careful with it. Oh, question. Adrian, who do we have back here? Who's the lucky questioner this time?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kate.
Hey, Kate. What's happening?
I wanted to add something in regards to what you were saying with bringing in hygiene patients, increasing production. I thought it'd be fair to add that sometimes patients max out on their insurance because of treatment they completed or whatever the case may be. They'll max out January, February.
Yeah.
It's always great to offer that patient additional cleanings complimentary for the remainder of the year since you
are so
helped
smart.
max them out.
You are so smart.
So
Thank
that
you.
way, the remaining treatment that they have outstanding,
Yep.
they'll for sure come back to you next year
God bless
to
you.
continue the treatment.
God bless you.
And then secondly, you are showing them that trust and that rapport with the
And
patient.
that you care more for them than you care about the money.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
And then
That's
I'd
how-
also like to add a joke real quick.
Oh, I love jokes.
Yay!
All right.
You asked for
Not
it
a dirty
earlier.
one. No dirty jokes.
Not a dirty one.
Okay, good.
Why did the king visit the dentist?
Why?
Guess. Yes, to crown his tooth.
Oh, I should have seen that one coming.
What did the judge say to the dentist?
What did the judge say to the dentist?
You swear to pull the tooth, the
No.
whole tooth, and nothing but the tooth.
Oh my God. Dunk, dunk. Oh my Lord.
And then, last but not least,
Oh, good. Thank you.
what is the dentist's recommendation called?
What?
His philosophy.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. We love that plan. It works spectacularly here. You start bad-mouthing insurance, you may as well just kick them in the rear. Even if it's a bad plan, it's a discount on what would otherwise been the case. All insurance is great. We love that plan. It works spectacularly for you. In fact, you got any friends or family got that same plan, bring them on in. It works particularly well here. How much money did you have to spend to do that? Nothing. got to get people to say the right things. It's fun. Oh, are we breaking the law by not charging copays? Well, these guys are too then, so we'll both all go to jail together. When I first started doing this stuff, I thought they were going to blow up my car. I had like dogs that sniff for explosives, and I had relatives that I didn't like eat my food before I would eat it, and it's like, because the insurance guys, man, we're screwing with them by increasing utilization the way we are. They don't like it, but they didn't blow me up, they didn't poison me. I'm still here, see, but what they did do is they increased the premiums to offset the utilization rates that went up. So that's all they did. Okay, I'm just going to go through these real quick. This is the way the new marketing has to counteract a lot of the trust issues and stuff. So super high credibility imagery, we test it and so forth. Everything's got to work together as a unit. Recall cards got to be marketing cards. Get a toy box. It's a great media. Great deal. Always have a toy box. Even give the adults toy boxes. Put different things in it. This is our websites with a book online thing. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Very happy. This is just some offices, showing you how everything's got to work together as a unit. A lot of these are real old. Said you might recognize that one. And then they got to work together as a unit. Build a image in the mind of the public. If you're opening a scratch office, you tell them ahead of time it's coming up. And for appointment now, here's where you got to call. Big deal. Big deal. Optimal. Everything's tested. We recommend our practices do fast braces. It's silly not to, or if not fast braces, something like it. But it's like get 2-3 fast braces case at $400. $4,000, $5,000 for every patient you check. Some of these guys here in this room are starting $100 a month, and it's crazy. Incentivize staff to push these things. It's a big deal. There's Cindy's practice, doing really, really well. Okay, as I get out of here, let's go through the deals. No patient should ever get a busy signal or be put on hold ever, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No exceptions, no nothing. Give them what they ask for over the phone. Don't bring up insurance questions, don't bring up exams. Most of the time they're gonna ask for a cleaning, give them what they want. Don't sidestep them, don't side sell them. Offer multiple primetime appointments within a day if you possibly can. Always mention Saturdays and Sundays. If I have a practice right now, I say, thanks for calling Willow Dental Care, where we're open Saturdays and Sundays and evenings. This is Judy, how may I help you? Make sure everybody knows that, because that's where your market's at. And even though it says it on your marketing and may say it on your sign, they still don't know it. They still don't remember it. They're just not taking off work no more. Have nice people. Make them nicer by making them a lot of money, particularly on great incentives, particularly if you're asking them to work on Saturdays and Sundays. They'll have bigger smiles on their face if they make a lot more money for coming on the Saturdays and Sundays or working in the evenings. And you'll make a lot more money too. You'll see more patients and you'll do the right thing. Shut up over the phone, welcome them, reassure them they couldn't have made a better practice choice. You're gonna love Dr. Smith, he's fantastic. He's my kid's dentist, he's my dentist. You can really trust this guy, he's fantastic. Brandon's not here, but that type of stuff eliminates this trust issue. Insurance, we love that plan. I don't care if you got your opinion about that insurance. Shut up, because all insurance is good insurance. They pay you money, right? I mean, I don't, it's a discount. Don't bring up money payment or insurance questions over the phone, just get them in the door. Watch out for case presentations. Watch out for soft tissue, obviously. Case presentations that are too aggressive, they'll above insurance max when there's no perceived problem, you're gonna lose them. You're gonna lose them. They'll tell their friends too. It's not an easy word. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. Who said that? Abraham Lincoln. So if there's a better way, why not do it today? Who said that? I said that. Really, this is a better way. For a lot of you guys, it's revolutionary, it's big change. We've given you but it's a better way. The path for future prosperity, the rest is up to you starting, you got to work tomorrow, right? No, you're not working tomorrow, you're here. Saturday, it's up to you you make these changes immediately on Saturday. So you pray for the best, prepare for the worst. It's a great world, man. This is a wonderful world. This is a wonderful world. You do the right things, you care for more people, you get to have wonderful, happy staff because you pay them a lot of money. You know, there's a lot of dangers, but there's more opportunities than there are dangers. This is the world. Sunrise or sunset? Trust me, man, sunrise. Sunrise. But you got it, this is the path. I appreciate you taking the time to put up with me. Thanks. Thanks.